How about this, Derek? I will give you a really easy one to start in the Sixers stock report. De'Anthony Melton.
Where's my stuff?
It's right there.
I have to move my microphone. This is ill-conceived. Ill-conceived. All right. I think that one is a pretty easy. Do I have the right one? Is this the right one? That's stock up, right?
Look, you know which way up is. Woo!
No, look, we mentioned it the other day.
Put it on the table. It'll make it easier for both of us.
We mentioned the other day that he started the season off, first 7 games shooting, I think, like 29% from the field and like 32% from three. He's up to about 44% from three. I should probably have this memorized. I don't. Somewhere around that. He's been shooting.
Oh, yeah, because the normal thing that I memorize as a person is De'Anthony Melton's 3-point percentage.
We do cover the team.
I mean, you don't need to know the actual.
I'm kind of a number. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I apologize for not knowing the exact percentage, but he has been on a tear over the last 6 or 7 games, and it's important. Like, it's really good to get that spacing. It's good to get another option when he is spacing the floor and a threat to shoot. His ball handling and secondary creation become a little more valuable. People are closing out on him. He has been much, much better. Much better.
All right. You got one for me off the top of your head?
Oh, geez. I didn't even think about this because I trusted.
Biggie just asked us for one. Marcus Morris Sr. Sell as fast as you can. Down.
I mean, but you're not going to find a buyer on that one.
Yeah, that's a liquidation if I've ever seen one. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's declared. We declared bankruptcy at Marcus Morris Inc. I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, all right. Here's another one. Paul Reed.
Okay, yeah.
Because I feel like we were a little harsh on Paul to start the season. He wasn't really playing all that well.
Good job, Paul. You're on the way up. I don't. What kind of stock would you say? He's not a blue chip. He's at least like a.
But he's not a. He's not a. He's not a penny stock.
He's like a safe. Not going to make a ton of money for now option, but he's got a little bit of upside. You're talking yourself into some.
Yeah, and I think some people might be looking to really buy in. And I think, like, Nick was asked about playing 2 bigs, and he seemed a little lukewarm on the idea. I think he needs more shooting. Paul Reed needs to establish himself as an NBA shooter to really try to expand his minutes and expand his role. He just hasn't done that. It's funny, every time he takes a 3, you hear the broadcasters be like, oh, well, he really works on that. Okay, but it has to go in at some point, and it hasn't gone in. And at some point, in order to play next to Embiid, you just can't have a non-shooter at a position like that. So it's maybe not as up as maybe some people want it to be, but it's certainly up from where it was to start the season. I agree with that.
Yeah, and so
he's just giving you real reliable minutes as a backup center, and that is a luxury that really for the entirety of Kyle and my career, we haven't been able to say. So it's nice to have that lockdown at a reasonable rate, making less than the mid-level. It's a good contract.
Yeah, and I think part of what Nick talked about today at practice was that the reason that he's even giving consideration to Joel and Paul lineups, the double big lineups, is that Paul has played enough in his role that it's like, okay, can we find some more time for this guy? That when he steps on the floor, there's a level of activity, energy, athleticism that Paul brings. That Nick's whole thing as a coach so far has been very simple. When guys have played well and have deserved more, he wants to give it to them not a week from now, not a month from now, but as soon as he can give it to them. And that's going to come in different forms for different guys. So in Paul's case, Paul playing well is not going to be, hey, Paul, you're taking Joel's minutes, right? Like, that's never going to happen. So the only path to giving Paul more of an opportunity is Paul playing in that sort of lineup. So I think Nick is open to that idea specifically because Paul has been on the upswing. His stock is trending upward, and we'll see. This would be a good week to try it out, probably against the Jared Allen, Evan Mobley front court, or the Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns front court, or even one of the Wolves front courts with Naz Reid in it, because that's the thing with Minnesota. They now essentially have 3 bigs that play most of the minutes, so they're playing a ton of 2 big lineups, even with one of the big 2 off of the floor. So we'll see if Paul gets in there for that game. I think they might need him on the second half of back-to-back.
Agreed. All right, so I'm going to bring up one here, mostly because somebody in our diehard-only Discord asked about him, and I'm going to use it as an excuse to talk about him. Mo Bamba.
I was very concerned about where you were going with that, but
Where
I don't know. I didn't know where you were going with it,
Okay.
but Mo Bamba, I know where he's going, down.
So
I don't know how much further he could go down.
there's a question in our Discord only chat of, what is basically preventing Mo, a former top, I think, 6 pick.
Which, by the way,
the
you
draft.
could be a part of these
could be a part of
conversations if you become a PHLY
Go
diehard.
to allphly.com. You get not only access to the Discord, where Kyle and I will go in and chat, but you get discounts on merchandise, discounts to events. You get a free piece of merchandise every year that you subscribe. So go check that out.
And maybe I'll have someone commission an emoji reaction with Derek wearing an accountant visor.
Well, especially if you get a screen grab. I started this off by having it wrong. So if you can do this, that would definitely be what you want to do. I'll just keep it on like this now.
All right.
What is basically preventing him from challenging Paul Reed for a backup center? Because he was at one point heralded, a top 6 pick. I think it's 6. I might be saying that wrong. It might have been 5, might be 7. It doesn't matter.
Top 10.
Yeah, top 10 pick. Who has now flamed out and is on a minimum deal. What's preventing him from getting to that level? Because I feel like asking a top 6 pick to be a backup center is a reasonable ask, but he's not there yet. So why not?
Because he hasn't been good at basketball. I don't know. I don't like to say things like the easy conclusion would be to say he's huge. He's got athletic tools. He's got everything he needs to be a good player. And the inference would be, well, he doesn't work hard enough at his game. But I can't sit here and tell you that, right? I don't know. And we certainly see Mo, we see a lot of other people after practices in the gym, in the low minute games, working on a shot. He's been out there with trainers and assistants. And so you don't really know. I don't.
Did you lift up the card?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we're doing the whole
I'm
bit.
as committed to this bit as anyone could be because I have to make you be committed to the bit. So, yeah, it's hard for me to say. He came here, and the expectation, I think, on our end, Derek, is not that he was something better, but he was something different, right? He might be an actual stretch big option. Well, hasn't really made shots in the limited time that he's gotten. In the preseason, played terribly. Didn't look good on defense. The concerns have been for him, if he can sit back at the rim and just be tall, he's got defensive utility. Otherwise, he doesn't move all that well. So if you can stretch him out, that's a problem for him. You put him in space, that's a problem for him. And if you're not making up with that by having some significant offensive value, well, then what are you doing on the floor? I think that's kind of the problem for him.
Yeah. I think his problems, first of all, I think sometimes he can look good physically as a vertical athlete, and that can be impressive at times, but he doesn't move all that well in space. So you combine a lack of decision-making with inconsistent effort, with not a whole lot of touch or fluidity on offense. There's just not a whole lot he excels at. And I think he's put in a lot of work in terms of, expanding his range on the jumper. You watch him go through shoot-arounds or whatnot. He has good touch on the jumper, and he can protect the rim. And I think a lot of people then look at that and go, well, why can't he do more? And I think the defending in space and the decision-making and the effort are the 3 things out. Because realistically, even if he doesn't have good touch on a shot around the rim or good body control, or you don't want him dribbling, you can live with that if he's spacing the floor, protecting the rim, and able to hold up defensively in space. It's the decision-making, which limits his rim protection and really every aspect of his game, the inconsistent effort, and also that even if at the peak of his game, he doesn't move all that well in space, and in today's NBA, it's real tough to navigate. Paul Reed is just a much better overall, much more consistent backup center.
Yep.
And again, I think the size, the shooting potential, and the athleticism, vertical athleticism at least, got him on NBA radars, but I think his warts have become pretty evident.
Yeah, and I think the one thing with Paul, too, it's weird to say that someone's effort and activity can be a signature skill.
But with Paul,
it is. And I think that means that every time that Paul is on the floor, that fundamentally either adds or changes the identity of the team, in that you have to know that Paul Reed is there and is going to crash the glass hard, and also is a switch capable defender. He's a guy that, you don't want him chasing guards around every possession, certainly, but you ask him for a play or two to step out on a guard and defend him in space. He now has improved his discipline enough that you're not just looking at it like, oh, he's going to foul here. Like that's how it used to be. And Paul now has enough reps under his belt that some of the silly fouls have been cut down. And so it allows you to appreciate all the things he can do. Whereas with Mo, all his value is essentially theoretical still at this point. We haven't seen him on a consistent basis turn what should be this really interesting, really valuable package, just hasn't shown up on an NBA floor.
Yeah, and look, even if like we might say he's added a 3-point shot to his arsenal, the number of actual floor spacing stretch fives, it's like 2 or 3. And one of them happens to be in Boston.
This upside down visor is killing me, by the way.
Look, when
I don't think I looked at you directly until then, and it just
when you start a bit, you got to stay committed to it, like you were saying. So if he's not actually going to stretch the floor, then he doesn't really have any utility on offense. He's got to be an impact defender. And if you struggle to move in space and your decision-making is suspect and your effort is inconsistent, you're not, even if you can protect the rim, you're not going to
Other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
You're not going to be a real impact defender. So I think it's just, he's got to be better, and I don't have any expectation that he will.
Yeah. All right. So I'll give you a reprieve. We can end the stock report. You want to grab like a question or two on our way out, so we're not ignoring the people who were trying to save you.
Well, I'm kind of digging the hat now, so I think
I'm going back to a normal hat. You can do whatever you damn well please.
We all silly like the mayor.